The biggest fraud, the economic damage. We've said that COVID is the most significant negative event since World War II. And here we can see COVID in historic context. So UK GDP has collapsed. We've seen 18 years of growth lost because of COVID. A similar thing has happened in the US, where in Q2 the economy contracted by almost a third. We've seen the US unemployment rate rise to over 14%, which is the highest since this data series set began in 1948, and you have to go back to 1930s for the Great Depression for higher figures. So as you can see, this is actually a much worse event than in 2008 in the great financial crisis, and also from the recession of the early 1980s. Now, what has the response been economically to COVID and to lockdown? Well, we've seen governments announce fairly scattergun fiscal stimulus. Governments have also been helped by central banks cutting interest rates to almost zero, the central banks announcing asset purchases and increasing quantitative easing. And what we've seen is essentially that greater fiscal spend of governments is being financed by central banks. And whilst that might be justified at this point to avoid a deflationary spiral, this is of course monetary debasement, and it does set the scene for a further fraud, which is of course the spending power of fiat currencies, which is why you've seen the price of gold so strong over the past few months.